Oh, thank you, Nico, for such a great introduction. So I will talk about myself on the slide number 2, but how I consider, why people consider me an expert is because I'm actually publishing a book in January with my co-author, Kevin Owoke, founder of Gitcoin. There are actually 2 copies here. I cannot give them away just yet because it's officially not published. So it's just like early copies to check out. So if you are here, you can read a chapter or 2, or you can buy your own copy. But if you are from San Francisco, we will be also doing a book launch here, and you can get free signed copy. And hope it will clarify even more what DAOs actually are and how we DAO than my short presentation. So who am I? So I'm Punkar. If you forget my name during the presentation, don't worry. It's on my t-shirt. So we can read it again. Um, I was born in Czech Republic to the family of business owners. And I think that's actually important really much because that kind of started my career and got me where I am right now. Because, small, medium businesses, I was always fascinated by that, supporting my parents, but also seeing other business owners around me. And it's a kind of a backbone of the economy, and I wanted to learn more how that actually works. So then I went for my master's of economics to learn how theoretically small and medium businesses are the backbone of society and the economy. And then I went to financial services. So I didn't start my career in blockchain or in my father's company, but I went to working for the big banks and others, but like trying to innovate, work a lot with the national banks because we were putting the products to be digitally native, which was new, and all the regulation like anti-money laundering and others needs to be adjusted by that. And we had to talk to a couple of the largest European national banks about how we can do it to still be compliant. And in 2017, you might already heard about that. There was like a big boom in blockchain called ICO, initial coin offering. So basically, everyone with white paper who was launching a token were raising millions of dollars. Um, and the banks start asking, like, what that means for us. Should we start, doing something on blockchain? How we should like be tackling this new industry? So from my position of like being in the innovation of financial services, I kind of become like the lead in the Central and Eastern Europe for blockchain. Then transferred to the global team in New York. That's how I got into United States. I'm here now like 7 years, and eventually I left Ernst& Young, even though it was a great journey and still friends with many people there, and went to DAOs, basically back to small medium businesses because DAOs so far are kind of, I would consider them like that type of businesses, very community driven, very much like tight, not corporate. Um, and these are some projects I was working with or started. So I was core contributor to Gitcoin, which is public goods funding DAO. I started Workout DAO. We have actually Friday runs from House of Web3. So if you are a runner, join us. We have other chapters in New York, Cape Town, Philippines. So it's very global. Bankless Consulting, which I co-founded to help other early projects to get into crypto. Uh, then I work as a delegate, which is basically like professional politician in one of the largest DAO on DeFi, MakerDAO, now called Sky. And we started the How to DAO movement with the book, and we also have education courses online and things like that. So as you see, like I'm a lot into DAOs. But this presentation is not about me, even though I got inspired by the presentation, they were here last couple of weeks before the elections that everyone presenting themselves. So I tried as well. But I'm probably not such a good talker as those candidates. Um, so what we will be discussing, origins of DAOs. So how we got here. Like, is this something totally new, or like, is there some like evolution to this? What is a DAO? What is, I would say, my definition of a DAO? How we categorize them? So are there different types? Then we go into like case study. So something I experienced personally and can share with you. Um, and then we can make some conclusions and Q&A. So DAOs are actually pretty much evolution of organization. So we didn't got here, a year ago or 10 years ago or even a century ago, but like it, I would say it all started basically like with the land ownership, like, 10,000 BCE, where it was like the first where you can get some security. It's like something you can actually own, you can invest in, and nobody can take it. I would say it's got more efficient, like in like 3000 BC when there was actually laws around it. But it really, like, I would say, started this kind of sense of ownership. We can invest into things, be more efficient. Then you have banking, so more like capital efficiency if you need some tools, and you don't have the money for it, but you will earn way more if you can purchase it. That's like when like banking started, and also in general, like money and stuff like that. So instead of barter, and then we are getting more into like corporations. So in like ancient Rome, corporations was like the first like who could take like a public projects, making it cheaper, more efficient. And then, as people were working together, we want to get more into like mutual benefits. And I think that's where like we are really hitting like what kind of DAOs in principle wants to be as well. The cooperatives, like 1844, when the cooperative started to like have a mutual benefits of building something. Switzerland is very actually interesting place for this because most of the largest companies there are actually cooperatives. They're also direct democracy, so everything like basically in Switzerland is kind of co-owned by their people. So if you're looking for good examples where cooperatives were like bring to another level, I would look there. But of course, there are bigger cooperatives also in the United States and elsewhere. Then we are getting into LLCs, like how we can de-risk innovation. So we are not liable with our own kind of property, but we can invest into something that might be a little bit more risky, but we really want to bring some innovation, do something novel, and that's like 19th, 20th century. And now I would say we are getting, into DAOs where what we want to have it's sovereignty. That's the word I would use there. And it's also like a kind of a censorship resistant. So all those companies before, all the organization structures, it's about people. I think that's common. But they were always kind of connected to some central authority. And what DAOs are now, they are very independent. They actually don't need to be connected to any central authority. They own their own banking system because blockchain, and maybe the question here, like, who knows how blockchain works? Okay, who doesn't know how blockchain works? Okay, cool. So, blockchain, in very simple terms, it's a decentralized network where every single node in that network owns the same information. So if I'm transacting $10 or like 10 Bitcoins to the lady there, every single of you, if you are node of the same network, will get the information that I transacted 10 Bitcoin. So if I want to then manipulate, the actual transactions, means like I still want to keep my 10 Bitcoins even though I send it, you can prove that I already send it, so I don't have them. I don't own them. But there is no central authority but it's keeping the record, like in banking, because the banking, on the other hand, it's I'm sending the money, and the bank is tracking the record. So if they like tweak it or like take all my money from my account, there is nobody else who can prove that they did something because the record is just on their books. Now we own the books. So nobody can like, manipulate that. So that's just like little explanation there. And DAOs are basically, running on that system, and they really like there is no bank who can debank them. That's one more thing mentioned here. Uh, you might, if you want to actually learn more about debanking, Mark Andreessen was on the Joe Rogan podcast recently. They were talking a lot about founders being actually debanked. So that's something you can also avoid if you actually have your own financial system. And this is a little bit different journey, but it's the same type of evolution. So, like the DAOs on the right side, they are not there just like starting out of nowhere. Like we started with the like business unit, big corporations, like a GM, Ford, type of that, like which were very innovative at their times. But then we realized that the complexity of what we are trying to achieve, it's increasing, and we need to coordinate differently. So we went from there to more like lean structures, then agile, super popular, and also like can be very different. Some people use like the Spotify model of the tribes. Some people use different agile methods. And like through this kind of like evolution, we also got into DAOs. So what I wanted to show here is DAOs are not, out of nowhere structure. They still follow the evolution, how we want to coordinate people within the organizations. They're just adding to it. So as you see, like there is basically like arrows from like the agile type of structure, also the virtual organizations, because they are usually very much like digital native, digital owning. And from there, we are getting into DAOs. So what is a DAO? A DAO is an organization that operates on blockchain, giving its members the power to self-direct and remain sovereign over its operation and resources. So I think the biggest difference between any other organization and DAO, it's run on the blockchain and then use it for the internal coordination. And that's what we showed, or I showed on the slides before. It's like that's the difference how we coordinate. And a little example, maybe to show what the regular organizations are and like how it differ if there would be a DAO. So we pick example as Airbnb, and it's a public company. So it's fairly decentralized because it's owned by its stakeholders. It IPO'd. So the point number one, built by a team, governed by stakeholders, that would kind of be for both because it's built by the Airbnb team, but as a public company, it's governed by its stakeholders, which can decide who will be actually run it. The number two, it's where I would say they differ very much because Airbnb, when they IPO, they were already big company, and most of us couldn't invest into it before. But with DAOs, they are basically getting public way earlier. So if Airbnb would be a DAO, we could all invest into their success way earlier, therefore decentralizing the Airbnb even more because our capital could have been used at the earlier stage. Enhanced transparency. So Airbnb as a public company needs to give you every year, maybe I think every quarter actually, some financial reports and stuff like that. So they are pretty transparent how they operate, but we need to trust them that the information they are giving us is correct, and for that we have auditors. And I used to work for audit companies, so I know that it's very rigorous process. It's go through, but it's also because it's so rigorous process. It's usually like a little bit out of date as well because it takes time to publish it. If it will be DAO and running on blockchain, all transactions are recorded. All transactions are real time. We can look at those. So I know how Airbnb operates, what are their margins, what are their fees today or like right now. So It's basically, they are transparent. Well, we can be more. Censorship resistant. I know that I'm like repeating that a lot, like the sovereignty, the censorship resistance, but I think that's the important part. Like that's why we use blockchain and crypto. Like we could have been on like, music in the cloud, be just digital native, but because we want to protect ourselves and our companies to be resistant from other outside influences, then we run on the blockchain. So that's the difference. That's the censorship resistance. If there would be someone who wants to rent out their apartment, and it would be legal to rent out the apartment, but maybe the government doesn't like Airbnb as a company, they can ban them from providing the service. However, if it's a DAO, it's a network. There is nobody to ban. Like if I want to rent out my apartment and it's totally legal to rent out my apartment, I can use this service. I can use the network to rent it through, because nobody can like take down the network itself. But if it's a company, there is a centralized entity, they can go to jail. They can be taken down. And it's, again, it's not something to take doing something illegal. It's rather to be more resilient. And the financial sovereignty is basically connected to that. Are we doing good so far? Perfect. So DAOs are, as Airbnb, it's also global. DAOs are usually like global networks. And why they are global and what it means is that like they can interconnect like members across the globe. So if you want to work with people from different countries, send capital to different places in the world, like DAOs are the great tool to do it. Also, they are very transparent. So if we are doing something here, and there will be another node in Asia, they can see what we've been doing, what we've been funding, and we can also see their transactions. So there is, enhanced transparency if we are doing something together, how we are actually using those resources, and if it's good or like if it has some results. And one of the good use case for this actually it's I would say impact DAOs or like DAOs which operates like a charity or they operates in like places impacted by a war or other political reasons kind of thing. And the example here it's the Ukraine DAO. So actually Ukraine DAO was one of the first organizations on the ground in Ukraine getting the money from abroad to Ukraine to help when the war began. And why? Because the banking system was down. It was impacted. The war started. Like they didn't know what to do. The banks were closed. But the crypto is not closed. Nobody can take down the blockchain. So if we send, Bitcoin and Ethereum to Ukraine, they can transact with Ethereum, Bitcoin, or something within and basically use that money to purchase what they actually need. And that was the example at the beginning of the war. Ukraine DAO still exists and still operates. But other examples are like, I have some Russian friends and they have nothing with the war, but they have families there because they couldn't leave because of the war. And if they want to send money there, they cannot do it through the banking system because it's all sanctioned. So they need to use crypto again. So they are like these type of example where like even though we have nothing to do with it and like it I just want to send money to my parents, like I cannot do it because there are these other forces around us, but now we are actually controlling what we want to do. And I mentioned like one of the examples of DAOs are impact DAOs, and like I would say that there are two big types of DAOs. One is like a for-profit DAOs, and you have a lot of these like DeFi protocols or networks which are profit-driven and as a DAOs. And then you have others, the Ukraine DAO or Gitcoin, on most of the VHeart SF DAOs, which are impact-driven DAOs. And like it's a similar distinguishment how we have like in the real world, like we have for-profit organization, non-profit organizations. We can kind of categorize. I won't say it. Um, but like there is also some intersections. Like some company might be like profit-driven, but they have like big actually impact within their goals and stuff like that. And I would focus today a little bit more on impact DAOs, also because we all here kind of gather to create an impact, not create a profit, I assume. Um, and when we did the research, we actually realized that impact DAOs are way more resilient than for-profit DAOs. And there might be more to it, but there are some key things we found out. The mission-driven engagement. Like if people gather towards common mission and they want to achieve or change something in the world, it's way more powerful than if they are just getting paycheck. And those DAOs, those impact DAOs, I've been also part of. They started 3-4 years ago. They struggled sometimes, during like the bear market kind of thing where they don't have enough funding, but the people are still there. But if you have the for-profit DAOs, if they struggle for a little bit, they just close down the business usually. And it's kind of connected also to the long-term focus and stability, where the impact DAOs which just started, like they have the goal in mind and they just go towards it. And how fast they go, it doesn't really matter. They just want to get there. But on the other hand, when we have the DAOs, and especially like DAOs connected to meme coins or something very speculative. Like if they don't give like the immediate profits, it doesn't matter for them. The business is gone. And the last one, the DAOs, actually the impact DAOs, have very diverse funding models. And this is also something which is very relevant. It's like there are so many funding sources in crypto for impact DAOs, so many grants programs, because you are not tied to any jurisdiction, any location. You are inherently all global. And because the crypto mindset, a little bit, which in many cases can be impact driven, we are trying to change the world for better. Those DAOs can get funding from different protocols, which are big grants programs. There are special grants programs like Givit and Gitcoin, which are focusing on open source software and public good. These days, they can also access all the nation-state funds or European Union type of funds. So even the, I would say, old-fashioned grants programs are now accepting DAOs. So they just basically expanded where they can get money for, and they can very well prove the impact because there is the traceability of all the funds. And here is a little case study. So that's definitely easier for me to talk about because I've been part of Gitcoin 2022, 23. I'm still, I would say, in the community. I'm not a core contributor anymore, but who knows what Gitcoin is? Okay, couple, nice. So Gitcoin, it's one of the impact DAOs, one of the largest, probably in the Ethereum ecosystem. You can check their results at impact.gitcoin.co. They funded $65 million to public goods funding. They also supported some of the very early projects, which are now billion-dollar companies. They started as open source projects, but now they're still open source, but earning tons of revenue. And they started with the model of quadratic funding, means that every dollar given by the community gets matched from the bigger pool where the protocols are putting money or other bigger founders, and the community basically decides where their money will be going for. And I would say it's a very appealing way of distributing funds. It's not just like me, well, I'm not great example, but someone rich giving money and deciding where the money should go, like, yeah, there might be some like not well aligned incentives, but if they are giving money, but actually the community who is on the ground, who knows who needs it the most, actually decide where the money goes, it's really powerful. And and the community actually grow a lot when they started with this funding. Also because they were endorsed by most of the builders in the ecosystem. Everyone saw they are doing good work, they are supporting the right projects, and those projects actually could survive because of this like ongoing funding. So as an impact DAO, they really had a big impact. Uh, and they grow a lot. And we were like 2022, I would say we were like 300 members, which is a big company if you think about it. And the vibe was that the DAO, it's basically should be funding everything and anything, and it should grow as fast as they could. And it was a general sentiment, I would say, in the ecosystem. But then we realized that's not actually what DAOs are about. We like really need to fund the right things, the right people, and like incentivize that. Because when the market crashed the year after, there was no money to fund it with, you know, and like we are still, you know, cannot operate without that. And then the team actually reduced to around 50 people. They are very much product focused and impact focused, what makes the most sense they are doing. So from like this community driven big DAO paying for everything, they actually become more like a startup DAO, and they are really focused team who operates it. But why they are still a DAO and why they are not like a corporation, let's say, or company, is because they are still governed by the token holders. So you know that's where the distinguishment is coming from. Gitcoin, they have their own token, which is owned by the community, and they might earn it during those times. They might bought it in, but they still need to ask the community what they will be spending money on, what direction they should be taking, and basically every quarter they are getting this input from the broader community how to operate. Uh, yeah, so what I wanted to basically show here is like the DAO mindset, or like what we consider DAO might change, but what doesn't change is we still run on the blockchain and we still govern by the community. So some summary here, and I think I'm on the time, so it's a good timing. What DAOs are great at? Efficient resource allocation. So what we said, every dollar can be tracked. I used to work at EY, and we work with the World Bank. And one of the problems of World Bank was like we are giving money somewhere, but we have no idea if they arrive where they should be arriving. So we work with them on the project, which would be kind of tracing the money over blockchain. And we really saw the difference there. Like first, like we can send the money directly from World Bank account to the person who needs it. If it's not that way, there was so many intermediaries and everyone takes the cut. And sometimes it just goes somewhere else. So, you know, like with the DAOs, it's just, that's what they're the best at. Like you can really track the resources and you can see where the dollars goes. And if it doesn't go there, like we will not send anymore. There are community-driven solutions. So, you know, We Heart SF, it's very much like focused on San Francisco. And those are the people who are starting the grassroots kind of initiative. But then there is this global collaboration, which is like possible through DAOs and through blockchain. So if we can figure out something here and which really works for the local community, it's easy then to expand it and or get resources from our global community. And here I just wanted to show that like there are so many different types of DAOs. So we talk a lot about the impact DAOs today, are try to explain how they work, but there are other like social DAOs, research and development. These days, like there is a big like a decentralized science movement. So new drug development, it's actually funded through a DAO, and it's more towards like what people actually need rather to like have big profits out of it. Because like if there is a lot of people who feels like we should go this direction, the DAO will actually fund that type of research. So really solving of some of the health crisis problems, and some fun things like art as well, where DAOs just coordinating around artists and supporting some creativity. And yeah, and I think we are just at the beginning of a big revolution when like people will start using DAOs as a organization of the choice, because they can basically create it from home. If you have access to the internet, can open bank account, organization, and everything just from computer and coordinate with people across the globe. So I hope that's the future. You can learn more about how to DAO at dot XYZ. And I think I have one more slide. Yeah. And the books will be here on January 22nd. So you should join us.
Thank you so much, Punkar. Okay, so I'm going to join you. We're going to have a little fireside chat to ask some questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience if you have more questions. So thank you so much for that very comprehensive overview about DAOs, some of the benefits, and some of the applications. I have a couple of questions for you. And one thing that's built into DAOs that you haven't touched on yet are smart contracts, which is definitely a Web3, protocol. Could you talk a little bit about smart contracts and how they play into the DAO system?
Yeah. So the first use case for blockchain was just the transaction. So basically Bitcoin. And we have just like, I can send a Bitcoin to another wallet so we can transact. The second use case came with Ethereum, where the smart contract were introduced, which is basically a programmable contract. Means like it's not just about I can send money from A to B, but now I can actually define rules where when the money should be sent or how or like what needs to be achieved to this money be unlocked. And I'm like mentioning money, it's like one use case. There can be more things to it. So there is basically what DAOs now can do is, okay, we can incentivize different behaviors. So if you do this, there will be automatic unlock of this reward. And, nobody controls that. It's just like programmed. It's transparent. And that's also what, it's the another part of the sovereignty. If we decide something, we program this incentive structure into the smart contracts. Now everyone can leverage that, and nobody can change it later in the process, type of thing. So I think it's like if I like company rules, but if you have a company rules or like some like programs, like people can like say, I well, we thought this would be the good idea, but then we decided to take it down. Like, well, that's not up to any person to decide. This is like the community decision, and it's there.
However, it would start with whoever started the DAO, right? Whoever wrote those smart contracts to begin with.
Yeah, so how this works is basically through community proposals. So like you can program to the DAO right away. That's one example. Like you can program the logic to the DAO when you starting it, or you can like submit proposals for adjustments. And then let's say you have a good idea and you want to incentivize everyone who brings +1 here on Wednesday gets extra lunch. And like you put the proposal up, you encode it, like, the exchange will be like NFT or something, like some token. So we can do it on chain. And then like there is proof, okay, I brought +1. Well, let me take that. And then if community likes your proposal, they will vote for it. It gets implemented on chain. So now it's a code. And then everyone who brings +1, it's confirmed they will get the extra lunch as a token or something like that. So it can be at the beginning of a DAO, or it can be as a community proposal, which then the whole community vote on to decide if that makes sense to do.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for explaining that. So, as you know, we have spawned 6 DAOs here at We Heart SF that are all related to ending homelessness here in San Francisco. And, our main objective is to really build an open source model and prove it here in San Francisco of how a community interim housing community project can be built with wraparound services by community members and hopefully inspire other people in other communities around the world to really do the same thing. So really providing a blueprint model, kind of a kit, if you will, that other people could join the DAO, take that kit and scale it on their own. And so, that's something that we have been working on here. How do you see the DAO structure benefiting that mission and that objective?
So I think there are multiple things to that. First, DAOs are great for experimenting. So like if you try something as a DAO, there is like a big chance that someone else will learn from it, and they like it. So in that terms, like just generally trying something in this space is benefiting us all. Um, but as I mentioned, like the DAOs are great for like local coordination with like global reach, basically. So you have the DAO which started here, and you coordinate around your community here. That's your token holders, or the depends how you structure it, but like that's the community you are working with. They contributed to the DAO, and then you have some of the things like you really succeeded with, and you want to show it or share it with other communities. It's easy for the DAOs to kind of spread because there is no limitation. Like you're not limiting by state or by country even. Like this DAO can expand its reach to anywhere in the globe, creating another local community which leverage those learnings, maybe getting some fund, from the main DAO, which is also there is no different transaction fees if we are transacting within the United States or beyond. Um, so what I'm basically trying to say here is like if you are trying to do something which should have eventually reach beyond the city, beyond the country, DAOs have no downside there. There is no limitation for it, and like what is already being developed within a DAO can be reused in different location within the same DAO.
Okay. And so we were just having a conversation before we started today that I think would be beneficial for the audience here to hear because you've heard us talk about these DAOs that we've been working on for such a long time, but maybe you're not really sure what that looks like or what that means. So so we have DAOs related to street outreach, interim housing, recovery, workforce development, mentorship, and mental health. These are all 6 different aspects of really the issue that we're facing today to kind of unlock solutions to some of these problems that we're facing here in San Francisco, but really all over the world. And so we have a DAO dedicated to each one of them. I would say that our interim housing DAO is really the DAO that sits at the center that connects all the other DAOs in terms of wraparound services that will be provided within a transitional housing community. And we are looking at building this transitional housing community here in the Bay Area, hopefully to open in 2025, inviting 25 women that are coming out of a recovery program to give them a safe haven to really heal, restore their lives, and get back on their feet. So that's the objective. It's called Tree Ring Village, and Dan Cordy is leading that project. And it's really incredible to see how the coordination and the cooperation is happening between the leaders and the members of our DAOs. And so I'm giving you some more details to kind of color the conversation here about how this works and why we have decided to create DAOs for this particular purpose. So within this project, we have, Dan as the coordinator. We have architects that are involved. We have the vendor who is providing the housing structures. We're going to have a landowner that we are renting land from. And then so there's kind of like this, this building construction element. And then we have like the operational side that's providing actual services to the residents and the residents themselves. So one of the things that we've been trying to do to like get this off the ground is identify like what are those roles, what are those responsibilities, and what are those activities so that we can map that out and get people involved. So what advice would you give to this project as we're starting this process about how we could do it more efficiently, about kind of the benefits, and help us kind of expand our mind as far as how we're relating to this project?
I will try my best. uh, Well, I think it's important to see like what you are trying to achieve. Like you are trying to build this interim housing in San Francisco and then probably beyond. Um, and on the other hand, what DAOs are great about is coordination of like multiple type of stakeholders and kind of balancing out their powers as well. So, you mentioned architects, you mentioned someone who is like operation, landowner, and they are all kind of having different stakes in this project. And one thing, it's like how you select them, and that can be through community contests where like the community actually vote on like what architectural project they like the most, what feels like the most cost efficient, and you can basically very easy to put it in like running that like that those people who are part of the community actually have the power to vote for the best type of project. It's not like a public contest. It's really like who is involved more, maybe have more voting power, and that's where DAOs are really coming to place very well. It's like balancing the powers and ensure that who has the most contacts has also the most say in those type of things. So it's really about the process, how you kind of select those type of people. And then we talk about the proposals. Like you wanted to do the proposal about the extra lunch. It's the same with like proposal for who will be building the house itself. There can be 5 different, contractors, and they all propose the price, timing, stuff like that. And then community have the discussion with them, they review it, and then again, they vote for it. And if it gets voted on, like even the payment can be automatically triggered, the contract will be automatically signed. So there doesn't need to be any person actually doing those contracting or sending the payment. If the community decided this is the right way to go, it gets automatically triggered and everything is kind of in movement. And when you implement all this, selection process, execution process, and then you actually gather the results that those 20 women were super satisfied, they are out of recovery, they are doing well, and then you showcase it to LA. I was actually at one conference in LA and they're discussing the same topic. Like, like they have the same problems, like it's just bigger city, so they have probably more problems. And then you showcase like, we did this and it works super well. Then let's create the vHeart LA group, which is connected to vHeart SF group, leverage the blueprint because it's already encoded. Like the selection process, it's already there. Like the DAO doesn't need to change. Only thing what you will be changing probably is the who is actually voting for that project. Because you don't want the San Francisco stakeholders probably voting for it. You might be voting for like how much money should we give them as the first grant to kick off, or should we start in LA? That might be like the decision we make here as the DAO in SF. But then the LA DAO, when it started, they have all the tools they need. They have also the funds we gave it to them. And they just basically do the same process. So it's way more efficient, way more quicker, and they just build the house right there. And on top of it, they gather the results as well. They might have some learnings, and we share the learnings as a community and expand to other cities with that. So what what is best here? Like we can share the outcomes, especially the financial, but also the technological kind of what we have already created and it worked. We can easily share it, and there is no cost associated with that.
Thank you for that explanation. I think that helped maybe clear up a few things for us and kind of our mission as to why we've decided to go with the DAO structure. And as we were talking about the stakeholders, and we were having another conversation earlier today. The residents could be stakeholders. They are stakeholders in this as well, so they can have a voice and maybe even be part of a referral process to refer other members to come in, so it gives them agency in this community where it's really full circle, putting the power into the hands of the people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there is nothing to add. Maybe just like another example, very successful DAO based in, I would say San Francisco. They're more like investment DAO. So they're not like impact investing, but they're more like into new startups. They called Orange DAO. So one of the incentivization program they have within the DAO, it's if you introduce us to the new builder, uh, you will get some tokens because we need to find more builders. And the same can be here. Like, we need to find more architects. We need to find more people from the community, like who wants to help us. And if you bring them in, you get rewarded for it. It's yeah, like we know you are here because you want to create impact, but we can incentivize it even more, either financially or as a recognition, as a badge of honor type of things as well. So.
Absolutely. And I could see land being a huge part of that as well, making sure that land, we can get referrals to available land to actually build these communities on. Shall we open it up for questions, starting with Paul?
Yeah. So my question is, I hear a lot of benefits and point-to-point capabilities. You have something you're doing, and I value it, and the ability to reward folks that are out there. Who creates the smart contracts? Those agreements in place, are those easy to do? Are those difficult? Can you kind of set those up on the fly, or does it require that the technical community help you out to get smart contracts in place?
There are smart contracts which are easy to set because there are like no code platforms. Same like it used to be super hard to do website. You could need to code it in HTML or something. And like now, like you just go to a website and you put square here, square there, square here. Those no code platforms works also in crypto. So if it's some more basic smart contracts, it's not that hard to do. There are tools to just like basically put it together. However, if you want something more custom, then you need developers, or you need to be, or you can use AI these days, but you can be unlucky and it won't work as you wish.
Yeah, so I know that El Salvador has gone to Bitcoin as their national currency. Do we see a lot of DAOs coming in there that are, is it functionally equivalent to the adoption of crypto and the collaborative nature of the communities that rely on crypto? Do we see a correlation between crypto and DAOs?
Yeah, we see definitely correlation there. I don't think it's in the way that like more DAOs will be based there. It's more with regulation. So more DAOs are getting based in different places based on the regulation, which is in place there. Now, a lot of crypto projects actually believe that US will be the right place with the new, administration, more being a little bit more open to crypto. But yeah, there were waves like with Marshall Islands and other jurisdiction when they introduced new DAO laws, or Wyoming for that sense, like more DAOs got created there. With the Bitcoin, it's more that you get more transactions on chain, so it's easier for companies, potentially DAOs, to accept that payment because it gets wider adoption within the population. So I think they support each other in that sense.
So we were talking about smart contracts, and I know you brought that term up a number of times. To run a DAO, do you actually require to have a token, a specific token built? And do smart contracts, can they be built or deployed separate from a token? Aren't they usually tied to a specific token or a specific blockchain like Ethereum? So can you have smart contracts in the abstract that don't actually rely on any particular blockchain or VM or token?
So you don't need to have a token.
Okay.
Well, the simplest DAO, and some people would disagree that it's a DAO, but it's a multi-signature wallet. It's basically a wallet which is controlled by multiple people. So it's like joint bank account, and 4 out of 7 people needs to approve the transaction, and then the transaction gets sent out. And there is a smart contract. The wallet itself is a smart contract. However, you don't have token. It's just like one person, one vote type of thing. You can expand on it. Yeah, so you can have larger DAOs, which still will be running as a one person, one vote. So you don't need to launch your own token, which like we know from like the Coinbase or other exchanges, but you just need some representation, like who can actually govern the DAO, which is through NFTs or through like whitelist kind of solution. But I think NFTs are a little bit better at that. And you can also make it non-transferable. So those tokens, and it can be either NFT, so one person, one token, or it can be even multiple. So you get 20 votes, Paul gets 10 votes, I get 1 vote. But because we make those tokens non-transferable, they are still tokens, but they are not the like financialization of the DAO. It's just about the voting power. So they would never be on exchanges. It's just for us to know what voting power you have. So that's the first part of the question. Second part, yes, you need to pick blockchain, but you can these days fairly simple migrate to another if you decide so.
Thank you.
We have a question in the back with Scott.
I did have one question, actually. So you were bringing in your example earlier, comparing impact DAOs with profit-driven DAOs. And then in your next slide, you were distinguishing impact-driven DAOs with DeFi DAOs. So is there a difference between a DeFi DAO and a profit-driven DAO? Or are they pretty much the same thing?
Yeah, so impact DAOs are non-profit DAOs.
No, I know. I was talking about for-profit DAOs.
Yeah, so impact DAOs. So basically, the distinguishment I made is like we have the for-profit and non-profit, and the non-profit I call the impact DAOs.
No, I get that. But then you were talking about for-profit in the first slide, and then you were distinguishing impact DAOs with DeFi DAOs. And is there a difference between a DeFi DAO and a for-profit DAO?
Oh, no, the DeFi DAOs are one of the biggest group, I think, within for-profit DAO.
Okay, so they're subset or
They
they're
are like subset.
okay.
And I didn't mention during that time, but I actually wanted to. Those DAOs are like the largest usually. So it's either protocol DAOs or DeFi DAOs. They have billions of dollars in their treasury, so they're super successful. Definitely, the impact DAOs, like the Gitcoin is one of the largest. They donated 60 million, so you can see the difference there.
But the DeFi DAOs are all driven by essentially speculation. You're trading or building liquidity pools between different tokens, and you're trading against them or using DeFi to help leverage and to build to get those profits.
So they capitalized on speculation,
Right.
because they are getting trading fees. They did not create the speculation itself. That's
No.
other type of DAOs, like the meme coin DAOs, like Dogecoin or something like that. Like those type of tokens, like were creating the speculation, but those DeFi or even protocol DAOs capitalize on it because they were capturing the fees from the trading.
Right. If I wanted to create a DAO, for-profit DAO that was, say, building a product and selling it, not related to or even a mining pool, could that be done?
So you want to sell
A product. Let's say I want to sell a phone,
okay.
a new phone.
Yeah, you can have product DAO.
Okay.
Like well, basically like any type of organization you have which is non-DAO, you can have it as a DAO, but like you will coordinate on blockchain rails. So, internal coordination will work through blockchain. You will have another bank account, which is again on crypto. So you are basically changing the internal part of your organization to run on blockchain, which then makes you DAO. If you issue token or not issue token, that's or if your product is crypto product or not crypto product, that doesn't really matter. So yes, you can be DAO.
So if eBay, for example, was running on the blockchain and you could sell products using that platform, using their smart contracts, essentially, that's kind of like somewhat of an example of how a retail DAO could work.
You can have eBay on changing their structure to become a DAO. For those large corporations, it's just hard because there are so many things what they need to change. But if they would be created as a DAO at the beginning, like, yeah, why not? Like, they are network, they are global, they accept all of payments from different parts of the world. It might be easier for them to be actually blockchain. Uh, Also, the censorship resistance can be important for them. So then their marketplace can be actually anywhere in the world. I would believe that there will be some places where they cannot operate because of political reasons or others. So when there will be like a protocol, basically, they could operate anywhere. So I can put my stuff there, and you can buy them.
And I want to get to Scott's question next, but actually, what you said in an earlier conversation was that Craigslist was actually more like a DAO if it had the smart contracts involved for you to actually complete the purchase through a platform like that.
Yeah, it's way more peer-to-peer. It's maybe also way more riskier because you don't have this like Sunderland that they kind of trying to be the like security keeper or something like that. But you can always, as a community, also create. So that's another thing maybe to mention. Like, it doesn't need to be peer-to-peer per se without anyone providing some services to the DAO as such. So if we need like someone to validate like the quality of the service or like being on the in the call center taking calls from the customers, like there can be a service provider which DAO pays to actually be that. So like basically there like all the services eBay is providing, it can still be done through DAO.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation. We're going to Scott in the back.
Yeah, so as a point of clarification, so kind of one of the big benefits of the transition from Web 2 to Web 3 is from centralization to decentralization. And you talked a little bit about sort of shareholders of a current corporate organization, right? But you have a centralized organizational structure that is sort of empowered from those shareholders. If you think about a DAO that is structured around token ownership, how does that, in essence, differ from shareholders who are driving the organizational structure. So if I have token ownership that drives the ability to make decisions, how do the DAOs account for that and not become the new centralized organization in Web3?
Excellent question.
Well, there is not much difference. So basically what you described, like we have the, like for Gitcoin, for example. So I used to work for Gitcoin. You have the outer circle, which are the token holders, like the shareholders, basically, of Gitcoin. And they are approving budgets and things like that. Uh, if we consider a public company like Coinbase, like what I like do for Coinbase is approving their management board, I think once a year, type of thing. So I would say the biggest difference is like there is way more power in the outer circle for small, medium type of investors because they got in early. So the decentralization of the outer circle it's larger, and they also have way more granular like access to the decision making. So it's not just like one decision a year, but there can be couple, and they can all like voice their concerns to the community, and others can kind of pick up on that. Like the platform for voicing concern in the public companies, it's through regulators, and it's complicated. It's not easy to file those complaints either. But like now we have platform which is just like digital chat, and you can actually voice your concern there. The community can pick it up, and same as a Reddit in a sense can be upvoted and like actually getting some traction and actually making a change. So I think it's very similar, but we are doing steps to make it more that the power of the outer circle is actually recognized.
Okay, we have a question over here, and then we'll go to Annette.
This might be very US specific.
Okay,
So-
I will try my best.
It's around taxation, right? Because one of the advantages of like giving crypto to a impact organization is you get a tax write-off, and the impact organization gets the full value and not the post-capital gains gain. So do you know if there's any, because somebody was asking this question last week and I didn't have an answer. Do you know if there's anything in like any laws or anything being done or anything at all so the impact DAOs are better than an LLC based or a, what is it called, a B Corp or whatever in the traditional centralized world?
Yeah, so first, I cannot give tax advice. Second, I don't know.
No, I'm asking, is there
Uh,
anything in the Senate or like the new administration or anything in the, on the government side that's even being looked at for impact DAOs?
Yeah, I know Gitcoin was dealing with that because, there were some donors that like wanted that for tax purposes. I think they had to register basically as a nonprofit in the United States, that the money got donated to that and distributed through the protocol. But I'm not sure about it. But that's a good question for January 22nd because the co-author of the book, Kevin Aoki, the founder of the Gitcoin, will be here. So he might be able to answer it.
Excellent. Annette?
Hi.
Okay.
My question might be very basic, but when you were talking about, for example, Airbnb, if it were created as a DAO, the first thing that came up for me is if there's so much access, what happens if there's a competitive organization? Don't they have access to your information? And is that good? I mean, I think it's good for consumer, but maybe not good for the people running the organization. And the follow-up question is with the like deregulation from a government perspective, at what point does that become not beneficial to people within the community? Like where do we need to draw a line around regulation of organizations so that things don't just go off the deep end?
So I will start with the first question. I think it's about mindset. I get it that like the transparency for some people can be like, risking the business itself. And there is definitely some privacy things build on. But overall, I feel like what we are actually doing, or as a company, like it should be visible what we are doing and that we are doing the good things. Um, and we are not, claiming something but not doing. So, from consumer perspective, and that gives us big competitive advantage, I believe. But there will be other people which want to like very much close their company and like nothing should be visible from the outside. I get that concern. From one thing which I think it's necessary, it's more like a B2B type of business transactions where, you are buying goods for producing your product, you negotiate a better price, like in the bulk or something. Then if that would be visible, everyone would like to have that low price. So now we have new base price, what everyone is negotiating it from. For that, like people are building privacy solutions, so it won't actually be visible. But I believe whatever is going for the consumer or the impact, like donation, those should be. So maybe that was like long-winded answer, but like there can be some transaction can be made private. I believe a lot of towards customers should be public. Um, but yeah, some of the big businesses have the same concern as you mentioned. And on the deregulation side, well, I'm not anarchist, so I'm not saying that we don't need a regulation. But maybe we just need to be a little bit more adaptive. Like, so for example, the like IPOs and like the investor protection type of thing, like you need to be how it's called. It's not recognized investor, but accredited investor to get into private markets, which is I believe 200,000 a year or 300 as a household. Like I think this is just gatekeeping, uh, because like there is enough transparency in the market, so anyone even with less money can check it out. Uh, and on the other hand, we are approving gambling. Like, what's why we are approving gambling, where basically the poors are like the like people with lower income getting like actually more harmed than anyone else, and then we are like not letting them invest into companies. Like that type of regulation personally I don't agree with, and I think we need to like adjust it. But there are some other protection law which might like which should stay, consumer protection and stuff. So if you get harmed by the product or service, like you have somewhere to go. So
Okay, we'll take one more question in the back from Ted.
Yes, this has to do with impact DAOs, and I'm thinking of, impact DAOs as the next iteration of, nonprofit organizations. One big, in talking about centralization versus decentralization, one common problem that, I know many people who've faced who've launched a nonprofit organization. They're highly visionary, they're highly purpose-driven, you know, they'll launch an organization and then I'm not talking about a DAO or anything, but if they don't put their board in correctly with the heart of, they wanted to go bigger than them, but they give control away, and now that board takes it a different direction. And it can be very heartbreaking. You know, I just I just wanted to address that. I wanted to get your input on that with DAOs. Like, how would a DAO solve this problem or address this problem? Or is it just, it's just wisdom the same way, under the current tools? Or is a DAO actually giving you more tools to empower others, but stay in line with a vision that's the vision of the core founders of this organization?
I think you have some flexibility there, but there is some like things to consider. So if you really want to decentralize basically and give the power to community, you can do that, but then you are losing the power essentially. And like you are running into the problem you described, like if the community decide go different direction than you want it, you cannot really change it. You have no power. However, you can keep some powers to you, and it will be very transparent and you have those powers while still accepting kind of feedback and direction from the community. So one example can be you give them the powers to do whatever they want, but you have the veto power. So if you don't like it, you just veto it. And like that can be encoded in the smart contract. Or you can go further with that, have more like what I propose, like you can comment, or the other way around actually. What I'm the one proposing, the community only power is to veto. So if I do something which is really not great for the community, they really don't like it, they can veto you, but you have the only one, or like, you know, some group of people within have the power to actually propose things to do. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we will wrap up here. Thank you so much, Punkar, for coming and all of your insights. We really appreciate it. We're going to be